Deserts are extremely fascinating areas with extreme weather fluctuations and sparse precipitation. You may have heard of or even visited some of the largest deserts, like the Sahara Desert, the Gobi Desert, the Syrian Desert, and the Great Basin Desert. They are characterized by rather hostile living conditions that challenge most ecosystems and societies that try to make a life there. However, this does not mean that deserts are not full of juicy scientific and archaeological discoveries that scientists want to explain but can't. In today's video, we are going to discuss some of the weirdest, most mysterious desert finds that archaeologists are still trying to make a sense of. Sit tight because number 5 is going to leave you so stunned you might never recover from the shock. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more like this one. So, what are these unexpected desert discoveries? Let's get started. Ancient royal boat found in a commoner's grave. Much unlike many of the democratic societies we have today, many ancient societies were characterized by different social groups defined by financial or political status, the rich or royalty, the religious figures, and the commoners. The royalty, wealthy, and religious figures rarely interacted with or married the commoners. This is why it was shocking when, in January 2016, a 60-foot wooden boat fit for a king was found in the Egyptian necropolis of Abu, preserved by the sands for over 4,500 years. But rather than this expensive boat being found in a royal's tomb, it was found in the unremarkable tomb of a commoner. The practice of burying ancient royals with their boats started in the early dynastic period. The boats were expected to carry their owners to the afterlife. The man in this tomb was buried with an expensive boat made out of imported materials, but he was not of any status or royalty, and archaeologists have yet to figure out why someone who was considered a peasant would be given such a sacred burial. The TAKLAMAKAN mummies. In the early 1900s, a Swedish explorer named Sven Hedin discovered the 4,000-year-old ancient city of Luleå, lost under the sands of the Taklamakan Desert, which is also known as the Great Desert of Asia. Almost a century later, explorers and scientists would find a very well-preserved mummy that would be named the Beauty of Luleå. They also found other mummies in the location alongside the Beauty. These discoveries were interesting because the mummies seemed to be of a Caucasian origin, complete with distinctively red and blonde hair. The Chinese government has been reluctant to confirm this suspicion or even indicate that they know anything about it. One of the mummies, known as the Ying Pan Man, was 6 foot 6 inches tall. The discovery proves that ancient people that were not of Chinese origin likely traded with and settled alongside Asian cultures over 4,000 years ago. The horned kangaroo. What do you know about kangaroos today? Well, a general characteristic of kangaroos, regardless of where they come from, is that they do not have horns. Does this mean kangaroos have never had horns? A collection of megafauna fossils discovered in Australia's Nullarbor seem to suggest otherwise. During the excavation that led to this discovery, the explorers uncovered the first complete skeleton of the giant marsupial lion, known as the Thylacoleo. They also discovered the mysterious skull of a horned kangaroo that dates back sometime between 200,000 and 500,000 years ago. Unlike the kangaroos you know or other fossilized kangaroos that have been discovered, the horned kangaroo has a strange bulbous snout and bony projections that stick out above their eyes. The horn-like features might have been there to protect the animals when they fed on spiky and thorny plants. The partial skeletons that the explorers found also had digging claws, which are typically found on smaller burrowing animals. So maybe this kangaroo was an anomalous breed between a kangaroo and another animal that somehow survived till birth. If there are others like it, it could mean that this is a special breed of kangaroos that had to develop special features to adapt to their environment. Family circles of the NAMIB Desert. On the grasslands of the NAMIB Desert, there are eerie, strange circular patches of land called the fairy circle. Each circle measures between 6 and 40 feet across and can remain in place for up to 75 years. The circles have been a head-scratcher for scientists for decades, leading them to develop several theories about their cause, such as sand termites, evaporation of water from plants, and patterns of rainfall that cause competition between plants and grasses, sucking nutrients from the soil. But nobody has been able to give a definitive explanation, prompting many local legends. Some say the fairy circles were caused by divine intervention. Others say they are caused by underground dragons or spirits. And yet, some have come up with several UFO conspiracy theories explaining the circles. Which one is correct? We may never know. The Atacama Mummy. We have all heard stories of mysterious creatures with strange features, but nothing tops the Atacama Mummy. Discovered in the Atacama Desert in 2003, the Atacama Mummy is a 6-inch alien-looking humanoid. This human creature, which became known as ATA, inspired the release of a documentary a decade later called Sirius. Sirius is said to finally reveal the truth about ancient aliens, with DNA testing done on a sample of ATA's bone marrow. And here is where it gets interesting. The tests actually revealed that ATA was 91% human and is thought to have lived until he was between 6 and 8 years old. The remaining 9% of ATA's composition are of unknown properties that experts are yet to figure out. Interestingly, 70 years before ATA was found, a similar discovery of a humanoid with 6.5 inches of height was made in a different region of the Atacama Desert. It was named Ataboy by Robert Ripley of Ripley's Believe It or Not. Strange purple spheres. In 2013, a couple was taking a walk and taking photos in the Arizona desert southeast of Tucson when they discovered thousands of strange watery, translucent, and purple spheres sparkling in the sun. It was a pretty sight, but they did not know what exactly they were looking at or what caused it to be there. To date, experts have yet to determine what these strange purple orbs might be. Most of them seem to think they could be some kind of fungus or a slime or a mold, or maybe hydrobubbles, which can be purchased at most supermarkets. So, did a tourist leave store-purchased hydrobubbles on a desert, or is there something else going on there? Giant alien hand. A group of self-proclaimed paranormal researchers called the Institute Incari Cusco has claimed to have found a large alien claw while excavating the Cusco caves in 2016. They also allegedly found an elongated skull with some skin tissue still intact. French explorer Thierry Gemin claimed his colleagues and fellow researcher Edson Salazar Vivanco performed an X-ray on the giant hand and found that it only had 3 fingers, all connected by some kind of metallic implants. However, the claw has not been subject to any further independent test, but if it is real, then it would have belonged to an individual standing between 2.7 and 3 meters tall, a giant technically. Geoglyphs of Jordan. In 1927, a group of World War I pilots found circular geoglyphs in the Wadi Wasad in the Black Desert of Jordan. Lieutenant Percy Maitland, one of the pilots, published an account of this discovery in the journal Antiquity. If you were wondering, a geoglyph is a large-scale drawing or image made on the ground by arranging lines of stones, scratching the earth, or making any other mark on the earth. They are usually only fully visible from the sky or a distance. Recently, a study revealed that these geoglyphs occur throughout Syria, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen. They have different shapes, including the shapes of kites, meandering walls, and pendants in various sizes ranging from 50 meters to over 1,000 meters wide. They are also 8,500 years old, meaning they predate Peru's Nazca lines by 6,000 years. They are so interesting because experts have been unable to figure out why people from these regions designed these geoglyphs. Were they there for worship or for decoration? Some sort of ritual? The MARFA lights. At the Trans-Pecos high desert town of MARFA, the MARFA lights shine brightly, as they have for generations. They hover, split, merge, and dart across the desert lands, impossible to predict. Reports from the location include several eyewitnesses describing the mysterious orbs of light as roughly the size of basketballs with varying colors like white, blue, red, and yellow. Some Native Americans believe they are fallen stars. Paranormal investigators believe they could be the wandering ghosts of Spanish conquistadors, while alien theorists believe that they could be otherworldly bodies. Scientific experts believe they could be caused by methane, producing a similar effect to swamp gas. Alternatively, they propose that the lights are some kind of electrical charges produced by solid matter like crystals, minerals, and ceramics. But these are all speculations. To date, there is no consensus on what causes the MARFA lights to appear as they do. A graveyard of sea creatures. Once again, the Atacama Desert is appearing on our list. In 2010, a highway widening project was ongoing at the Atacama Desert when workers stumbled upon a mind-blowing discovery. They had just uncovered the skeletons of 75 whales. These were no ordinary whales, but prehistoric whales that are believed to have been around about 5 million years ago. They were found lying next to one another and were some of the most well-preserved whales remains ever found. According to the Royal Society, the fossilized graveyard likely resulted from whales ingesting fatal amounts of toxic algae along with their prey. As they were dying, they must have been washed into an estuary and onto more flat terrain, where they would become buried over time. 5 mysterious lake appearances. While living in the desert or any arid or semi-arid region, you mostly have to accept that water might be one of your most prized possessions because of the hot temperature and dry sands. So, what do you do when a lake mysteriously appears in your backyard? That is exactly what happened in 2014 in a desert area about 25 kilometers from Gafsa, Tunisia. A mystery lake spanning about 2.6 acres seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. The local shepherd who discovered it could not believe his eyes as he stared down at what would later measure as an 18-meter deep pool of water. Nobody could explain this mystery. However, officials with the Regional Directorate of Civil Protection believed the spring was likely caused by a fractured layer of rock caused by seismic activity due to phosphate mining in the area. If this is true, then the water is likely full of carcinogens and radioactive materials that are harmful to human health. Despite several warnings, the locals continue to use the lake. When you consider that the area has suffered severe drought conditions under the scorching desert heat for years, you can understand why the locals will see this mystery lake as a blessing. The Dead Sea Scrolls Treasure Map. You might have heard about the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were one of the most remarkable archaeological finds of the 20th century, uncovered between 1946 and 1956. However, it is one of the 981 scrolls, called the Copper Scroll, that has baffled experts for many years because it appears to be a treasure map intricately detailing 64 locations containing several tons of gold and silver. However, the Copper Scroll is inscribed in a form of Hebrew that is different from the ancient Hebrew found in the other texts. The dialect is more commonly used hundreds of years after ancient Hebrew. Explorers have carried out several expeditions to locate the treasures, but unfortunately, nothing has been found yet. Maybe the treasure has already been found centuries ago, or it is still out there. Explorers keep searching, hopefully till they find something. Chinese desert patterns. In 2011, Google Earth users found strange designs carved into the Gobi Desert in China's provinces of Xinjiang and Gansu. The patterns are supposedly used by satellite operators working for the Chinese government to work out the distances and angles from space. However, alien conspiracy theorists think otherwise. They believe the patterns, which could be measured up to a mile, are similar to crop circles or landing zones for UFOs. There are similar patterns in the Arizona desert used for the same purpose as the ones found in China, but conspiracy theorists still believe there is a much more interesting explanation for them. Shell cover-up. In 2003, the owners of the Texas-New Mexico pipeline company Shell landed in hot waters over an oil spill from one of their pipelines in the 1990s that they tried to cover up. They had sold said pipelines to Houston-based EOTT Energy, which was, in turn, being sued by the residents for the environmental damage caused by the oil spill. EOTT then countersued Shell, claiming that they were not responsible for the pipelines when the damage occurred. To avoid a lawsuit, Shell took 190 boxes full of environmental data, financial ledgers, and maps and buried them 40 feet deep into the desert near the company's pipeline, 25 miles southeast of Las Vegas. Investigators only found the documents because a former employee told lawyers of their existence and exact location. The Lost Libraries of the Chinguetti. At the end of a desert road in Mauritania, West Africa, a near-abandoned town called Chinguetti is slowly becoming swallowed by the sands of the Sahara. In its prime, Chinguetti was a medieval metropolis that was home to 20,000 residents, including scholars of law, religion, science, medicine, mathematics, and astronomy. It was also a holy city and a gathering place for pilgrims journeying to Mecca. It was known as the 7th Holy City of Islam and the City of Libraries. Most of the libraries are gone today, but there is still a handful left containing around 6,000 priceless books that are still intact since the 9th century. Unfortunately, experts believe that in just 30 years, the city will be lost to climate change. Perhaps the government can intervene and rescue the books and other artifacts there to preserve the rich history of Chinguetti.